What's up, everybody? My name is Justin. Most people call me GDT. And in today's video, we are going to talk about how you can make extra money on your investments. All right, so what do I mean by extra money on your investments? So I'm talking about making money on stocks that you already own and you're planning to hold on long term as an investment. You can make extra money on your stocks that you own without selling them. How do you do it? We're going to break it down in this video. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about selling covered calls, selling covered call options. Yes, we're going to talk about options in this video, and this is not going to be an in-depth video that's going to explain to you everything that you could possibly need to know about options. The purpose of this video is just to explain how, why, and kind of show you some examples of how you can make extra money on your investments that you already have by selling covered calls. So what are the covered call basics? So in order to do this, you need to have at least 100 shares of any given stock that you own. So you have to own 100 shares of a given stock. You have to have options trading enabled through your broker. So you've got those two things. You own 100 shares of a stock. You can trade, sell options through your broker. So what is it that you're doing when you're selling a call? Well, when you're selling a covered call, you're selling someone else the right to purchase your 100 shares at a set price, which is known as the strike price. So you're selling someone the option or the right to buy the 100 shares that you already own from you at a price that you set. Now, since they have the option or right to do this, they have to pay for that option or right. So this is the premium of the option that they are paying you to have that option or right to buy those shares from you at a given price by a certain date. So all those things are the important factors here when you're thinking about covered calls. So got to have that 100 shares, and then you're selling someone the right to buy those shares from you at a certain price by a certain date for a premium. So let's do a hypothetical example here. Say you own 100 shares of Meta, and your price that you've paid per share for those 100 shares is $100 per share. So you own 100 shares of Meta at $100 per share. The current stock price of Meta is $120. So you're already up $20 per share on your 100 share in investment, but you still think that that stock is going up long term, and you're planning on holding this thing for quite some time. Maybe even having a target price out there in the area of, say, $150. Keep in mind, these are all made up numbers just for an example to explain how selling covered calls work. But you don't think that $150 is necessarily going to get here quickly. You think it's maybe going to get here in a couple months, and you definitely don't think it's going to be here by, say, next Friday when options expire on the weekly options. So at this point, what you can do is you can sell someone a covered call with a strike price of $150. So that's where you set your target to sell it anyway. So if someone were to buy this covered call from you and the stock price goes to or above $150 by next Friday, you then have to sell them your 100 shares of Meta at $150. Now, in order to do this, they have to pay you a premium to buy that option from you, to buy that right to buy those shares from you. So say the premium is $1. That's what the premium costs. It's $1 to buy that options, but that dollar that it shows on the premium price is actually times 100 because it's per share inside of that option. So it's, if the premium is showing $1, it actually costs $100 for them to buy that option from you. So they're going to send you $100 right away. That as soon as someone buys that covered call from you, that $100 goes directly into your account. You now have an extra $100 in your account, and you have sold them that option. So if they buy this option from you, you get the $100, and now if the stock price goes up to 150 before the option ends on next Friday in this example, if it goes up over 150 to or above 150, you then have to sell them those 100 shares of Meta. So let's break down the possible outcomes of selling this covered call to someone at the strike price of $150 on your Meta position. So say next Friday comes and the price of Meta is below $150, so it has not reached the strike price. In this example, you keep the premium that they paid you already for the option, which is the $100, and you keep all of your shares of Meta. So essentially, you've made $100 on your investment that you already own, and all you did was sell a covered call that expired. What happens to the covered call once it expired? It's worthless. It goes away. It's like it was never there. It's absolutely worthless for the rest of time. Nothing can be done with it. Example 2. Say some really big news comes out or something like that, and Meta shoots up, and the price of Meta is at $150 or higher. Well, in this case, you still keep that premium that they paid you. You still keep that $100 that they paid you for the options, and then you sell them your 100 shares of Meta that you own at $150 per share. So you're still selling them and getting the profits from selling the 100 shares at $150 per share, plus you keep that premium. Now, I know what you're thinking. Justin, this sounds too good to be true. Can you even lose in this type of scenario? Well, the answer is kind of. You can kind of lose. So here's some examples of what can happen which can cause you to lose on the option. So say we're at Thursday, one day before the option expires, and the price of Meta is at like 148, and they had some good news come out like that or something like that, but you really didn't think it was going to get up there, and you really don't want to sell your 100 shares of Meta at 150. If it gets to or above that, you really don't want to do it. So you decide to buy back your covered call. Basically, you're covering kind of like a short position. But the price now of that option, of the premium of that option, is higher than the dollar that you sold it for. So you're now buying it back, say, in this case, at $2, just for an example's sake. You buy it back for $2, so you've lost a dollar per contract on that trade of the option. It's really just a trade of the option at that point, and so you've lost $100. So that is a way you could potentially lose. Now, there's another way you can kind of lose in selling covered calls, but it's not really losing money, it's losing the potential of how much you could make. So in this fourth example, we're going to say that, say Meta comes out with some crazy earnings, or I don't know, somebody decides to buy him out. Elon Musk comes and decides to buy him out for $200 a share. And so the price of Meta jumps all the way up to $200 per share before next Friday. Well, in this instance, as soon as the price goes above the strike price of $150 and they execute that contract, even if the price of Meta is at $200 per share, you still have to sell them those 100 shares at $150 per share. So you're still making the money of where your target was initially, still keeping the premium, still selling them for a profit of $50 per share in our example here at that point, but you're losing out on that potential of that extra $50 per share that it went up higher than you thought it might. Okay, so let me give you a real world example of how I do this in my investment account. So you guys mostly see all the day trading stuff here, but I do have an investment account in E-Trade where I own stocks and I sell covered calls against the ones that I own enough stocks of. The one I do this the most on is my biggest position, which is in ChargePoint, CHPT. I currently own 480 shares of ChargePoint, and I have an average of 13, call it 45 per share. So you can see, as at least of when this screenshot was taken, I was up 15% on that position. So without selling it, I'm currently unrealized up $1,000 just on my current position in ChargePoint with the 480 shares, with the current price when I took this photo being around 15.50. So I'm up $2 per share, say, on this, and I'm up over $1,000 already on my investment. But my target for charge point to sell is up closer to the 20s. So I don't think I'm selling this anytime in the future. So how can I make extra money on this position that I own without selling any of the shares? Well, as you know, we can sell covered calls. So I've done this a few times now, and I will show you here on my screenshot of all the ones I have done, including one that I decided to buy back at a small loss. So if you look here on the screen, you can see I already was in and out of charge point once previously, and I made $1,190 just on the shares previously once when it spiked back about a month or so ago. I sold them all for, almost a $1,200 gain there, and now I was buying them back as it dipped again, and that's how I got back up to 480 shares there. You can see I previously had 181, I now have 480. So you can see above that, though, are all these options. These are all covered calls that I was selling. When I owned less, you can see back here in February and March, I was selling 2 covered calls per time. And more recently here in June, I was selling 4 covered calls per time. So if we're looking at this, you can see kind of what's been happening is overall, I've made, what's this, 30, 55, 65, call it 73 minus 3. So I've made an extra $70 on my position extra by selling these covered calls. So you can see this one back in February. It was a February 25th of this year, 14.50 call. I sold 2 of them, and I ended up buying them back because it was making a nice move, and I didn't really want to sell it yet. I just didn't think it was going to make that kind of move. So I just bought it back real quick once I saw it making that move for a $3 loss. So no big deal. That's one of those examples of where you theoretically could lose on a covered call. You can see back in March with the 2 contracts I sold back then, I sold them and I made $23 on them, just letting them expire because they never got to the strike price. Same thing in the beginning of June, sold 4, made $30 on them. They expired, never got to the strike price. And then just as recently as last week on June 24th, sold 4 of them, made $18 because it never got to the strike price. But how am I doing these? So generally when I do these, I do it all in the same week. I look at the market on a Monday, I see what I think it's going to do. I look at charge point and I think, okay, by Friday on this weekly option, do I think it can get to this price? If the answer is no, I then look at the premiums on the contracts, see if they're worth selling. Sometimes, depending on what stock you're trading, they may not be worth selling because they're so low. But if I think it's at least worth selling and I don't think there's any chance that it's going to get to the strike price that I chose, I will sell the contracts, and then by Friday, I've made that extra money on my investment. So all of these contracts you can see that I've sold here were a week or less that I had them. So I believe these 2 in the $20 range were a Monday and they expired on Friday, so 1 week for these each. And then this last one here on June 24th, I sold these contracts on Thursday afternoon because ChargePoint was having a really good day that day, and I sold that at a price higher than where I thought it could be by Friday based on the move it already made on Thursday, and then the next day they expired. So in the course of one day, I made an extra $18 on my investment. So while it's not a huge amount, you could see how if you do this every week or every other week, how it just kind of adds up onto your position. And I've now realized an extra $70 on an investment that I'm already up $1,200, currently up another $1,100 unrealized, and I don't plan on selling because I think it's going to go up longer and longer in the long run. So in the long run, while I plan on holding my charge point position, I'm going to just continue to sell covered calls against it and just make extra money on a position that I already own without having to put any more of my money into the stock market. So that's why I really like covered calls. Hopefully this video gave you a brief overview and understanding of how you can make extra money on investments that you already own without putting any more of your money into the stock market, and basically being able to do it without losing, as long as you're okay with selling it at a certain price. And if it goes above that price, well, you still got to your target and you sold it there anyway. So Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit like and subscribe. I'm not day trading this week of what's it going to be, the last week of June in 2022 when I'm putting this video out. So I won't be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So this video is coming out on Monday, and we'll be back hopefully with another couple videos throughout the week before we get back to the day trading. Let's go charge point. Let's go covered calls. Appreciate you watching. Like and subscribe. Have a great one.